बंदा पीछे से आया और उसने गोली साइड में रख के उससे पूछा हिंदू है कि मुसलमान? मुसलमान है तो पहले कलमा पढ़ के दिखा। जैसे हमें पता ही नहीं, हम पीछे पलट के देखे हो क्या रहा है, हम उसकी तरफ स्माइल करके पूछे भैया क्या हुआ? कह रहे हिंदू है मुसलमान। मैंने कहा हिंदू मार दिया।
उनसे बोला कि अगर आप कलमा पढ़ दो तो हम आपको गोली नहीं मारेंगे। उसके बाद उन्होंने वहां पर उनको गोली मार दी और उनकी वाइफ से कहा कि आप जाकर के अपनी सरकार को बताना कि हमने आपके साथ क्या किया है।
और इस हमले की साजिश रचने वालों को उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी।
Funerals, anger, anguish across India. The testimonies are emerging with shocking details. Details of religious targeting, of women being forced to watch the execution of their husbands, their sons at close range. Also devastation in the Kashmir Valley, where now accounts are emerging one after the other of heroic attempts by local Kashmiris to try and save lives. One poniwala was killed, sprayed with bullets as he wrestled with terrorists trying to snatch away their rifles to save tourists. Another, a shawlwala, ran up the hills of Pahalgam when he saw a message on a WhatsApp group asking for help. As India comes to terms, and perhaps India will never come to terms with what has happened, the army chief is on the ground in the Kashmir Valley. The Prime Minister has signaled that there will be unimaginable retaliation. Aapki kalpana se bahar India measures legi. And speaking in English, targeting the international community, he vowed that India will chase those who did this and their backers till, quote unquote, the ends of the earth. What shape and form might this retaliation take place? To understand what's on the table, both from a diplomatic and a military perspective, let me introduce our guest today as we continue our relentless coverage on the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack. Professor Raja Mohan, Strategic Affairs expert, is with us. Good to see you, sir. Khalid Shah, a Kashmir analyst from Kashmir himself, is with us. Good to see you, Khalid. Veteran diplomat, Ambassador Dilip Sinha, is with us. Welcome, sir, as always. Military veteran, General Sharma, who's, of course, a distinguished fellow at the VIF, is with us as well. Welcome, everybody, to the program. The army chief is in Kashmir. This as Pakistan has threatened to scrap the Shimla Agreement, and we have seen firing across the line of control take place. But of course, if the Shimla Agreement is no longer recognized, then the line of control's sanctity itself is under question. But in the meantime, has come us, before we sort of, we'll bring you many of the human testimonies, the tragedies, the heroism. But there has been an astonishing admission by a Pakistan minister on Sky News, conceding that Pakistan has done, quote unquote, dirty work for other countries in the past. Take a look at this clip.
You do admit, sir, that Pakistan has had a long history of backing and supporting and training and funding these terrorist organizations.
Well, we have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain.
So that's your argument that
that was a mistake, and we suffered for that, and that is why you are saying this to me. If we had not joined the war against Soviet Union and later on the war after 9/11, this Pakistan's track record, was not unimpeachable.
So Pakistan, a Pakistani senior minister, a veteran politician of Pakistan, going on an international channel conceding that Pakistan has been doing the dirty work of other countries. Pakistan, as usual, speaking in contradictory language. On one hand, claiming that India has blamed it falsely. On the other hand, another leader describing these terrorists as, quote unquote, freedom fighters. Let's get reactions. I'll start with you, General Sharma. It's quite clear with the army chief on the ground. The Prime Minister has signaled that retaliation is being prepared. There are, obviously we cannot discuss anything operational, but what might you think the military leadership will be studying, examining at this point? What shape and form might this retaliation in the days to come look like?
Thank you, Barka, for inviting me. I think it's not right to outguess what the government is going to do, and the Prime Minister's remark has been very forceful and strong. And we have to now decide what is the aim of what we are doing. Because it's already 2-3 days past, and the opposing side is also kind of ready. There would be a response. We had response earlier in Balakot also. So it has to be considered in that manner that we have the capacity to absorb the response that comes in. And what do we have the aim of achieving? So is the aim of achieving is to take some territory, destroy some launch pad which have no meaning, destroy some terrorist camp which again have no meaning at all, or take on something substantive like the known headquarters of these organizations, which are a little bit in depth, but then of course they can be hit, or take on the degradation of the military machine. So what is the aim that we're going to achieve is one of these issues that it has to be decided. And is it a one-off issue, or it's a sustained effort? Because, if you do one-day thing, and we have done one-day things, and, they die away in no time, they are not deterrence enough. So we take a long-term view on continued pressure across there, like the cessation of the ceasefire? So each one of these actions that have been written and spoken about in last 3 days have got counter repercussions for us. And I'm sure that the government will be considering what the repercussions would be. If I had my way, I would have done something within next 6 to 10 hours, maybe irrational acts. But irrationality also helps out at some time, and then later on you can take a step back. But as time passes, then rationality sets in, and it becomes increasingly difficult to take decisions. But I think we have to take action. There's a public opinion, national opinion, which is very strong. The nations of the world are seeking us to take response. People compare it with Gaza, and name what all. So I am sure that the response, and whichever the way it will be sustained over a period of time. It won't be. It will be relentless. It will have meaning, and it would be nothing akin to what has been done previously, because what we did previously has not been of significance as things have passed across here. So I will take a step back here and say, let the government decide as to what they wish to decide as to what must be done, especially in the light of thing. And again, I must add that everything doesn't have to be kinetic. We can have non-kinetic issues also. We have domains of warfare which go beyond the Army, Navy, Air Force. We have strengths in those domains of warfare also, in which we can target and make effective targeting across on the opposite side, which will also be painful. And we can, of course, covert and overt responses. So I think to sum it, there will be an admixture of kinetic, non-kinetic, covert, non-covert, depth, forward, all in response to accepting that that there may be a response from the Pakistani side, and we have to be ready to accept that response.
You make two very important points. One, you believe that sometimes a certain moment of spontaneous irrationality is probably better than thinking everything through, but that moment, that window has passed. Now you think that whatever happens will not be akin to what we have seen in the past after Uri, after Pulwama, and two, that warfare goes beyond kinetic action. The problem, sir, is that Pakistan may still respond or retaliate in a kinetic fashion, right? We cannot discount that. So, there is, as you said, a range of scenarios that could emerge from whatever happens next, kinetic, non-kinetic, which is basically expert speak for military action, covert or overt. Ambassador Sinha, let me bring you in. Astonishing, kind of bizarre almost, comments by Pakistan's minister on that Sky News interview, saying that we've done the dirty work in the past, and that's why we got a bad name. Another thing that has happened is that Pakistani crowds were able to breach security and surround the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. Obviously, this was somewhat orchestrated. There you see those. Images. How do you see the situation evolving in the next few days?
Well, this is not new for Pakistan. We have had admissions in the past also. Imran Khan has made such statements. Pakistan, at least now, claims that whatever it did in promoting terrorism in Afghanistan and in Kashmir was part of the game plan of the Americans. So it kind of passes the blame onto America. But it has made such admissions in the past. It's not new. As far as the playing out is concerned, they have already taken the step-by-step retaliatory action. So now they can sit back and say that we have taken our steps. Now it's for India to decide what steps it wants to take. India has taken one major step, which is to keep the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. On the military action, I presume there would be discussions going on what we can or cannot do. This is the situation that is at the moment. Now, I think the ball is really in our court, where we have to decide what further steps we wish to take, keeping in mind that Pakistan has already taken retaliatory action against us on the steps that we had taken on the first day.
Yeah. What would be your concern? What would be, briefly, Ambassador Sinha, what would be your primary concern at this point?
I don't think we are concerned about anything at the moment. It is in terms of military action, we'll have to see how effectively and how we can take military action. And this is for the military experts to decide whether it is possible to have some kind of a strike that is limited, or whether we are prepared for an all-out war. Now, these are things, again, that are military decisions to be taken. My view is that the permanent thing that we should do is to get rid of this Indus Waters Treaty, which was a bad treaty from the very beginning for us to have got into. We took on obligations that we need not have undertaken. There were certain circumstances in which this treaty was signed. Now, keeping the treaty in abeyance is just not enough, because when the treaty gets reactivated, Pakistan will object to any action that we would have taken in this interim period, and that would go into the dispute settlement mechanism of the treaty. So, and we would have to undo it. So we either abrogate the treaty or we continue to abide by it. There's no interim measure that we can do with this.
Okay, we'll explore that, because the fact is that it's not literally like a nalka that can be turned off. It's a highly complex thing. You need a mechanism to actually block the water from going into Pakistan. More on that in just a moment. But before I come to Professor Rajamohan and Khalid Shah, all four terrorists have, according to officials, been identified. 2 of them are from Pakistan. 2 of them are locals of the Lashkar-e-Taiba from South Kashmir. New images of them have been accessed by Mojo Story. You see them on your screen. Their names, these are the local terrorists, are Asif Sheikh and Adil Thokar. And in a late night search operation, officials say that they found a suspicious object at the house of one. An induced explosion was then triggered. And the other person, the other terrorist house has also been razed to the ground. Let me give you a sense of what's happening on the ground in South Kashmir. This is, as I said, one of the terrorist homes being blown up by engineers in an induced explosion after a suspicious object was recovered at the site. Very short 3-second clip, but to give you a sense, that house was blown up. If we can also bring up on the screen the other terrorist house, which has been razed to the ground, we can show you those images as well. Let's bring you in, Professor Rajamohan. We have had 2 very interesting perspectives, the diplomatic and the military, from General Rakesh Sharma and Ambassador Sinha. Get rid of the Indus Water Treaty. That's the permanent measure. General Sharma saying that 10-hour window has passed. Now, whatever you do has to be sustained. It can't be it's not a one-off. It's not that you do a surgical strike and then life carries on. It's not that you do a Balakot and then life carries on. Something will have to be done. There is a break from the past. To that extent, we are at an inflection point. Where do we go from here, Professor Rajamohan?
You're asking me, Barkha? Yeah. I mean, see, I think, Barkha, we've been covering this crisis in Pakistan for almost 30 or 40 almost, going back to the brass tacks explosion, brass tacks military operation 1987, 86, 87. Now, I think what we've seen in each of these crises is anger in India, a response, and then, generally going back to talking or, accepting some statements, mediation from international parties, seeking some assurances that Pakistan does not conduct terror. And we've seen this pattern repeatedly. And therefore, I think what this government has tried in the last decade, I would say, one is to create a level of deterrence under the nuclear shadow, because Pakistan had certain impunity that, given the danger of nuclear escalation, it had the freedom to pursue, terror operations. So I think trying to stop that freedom of action, I think we did after Uri, the cross-border raids, and then after Balakot, the attack on the terrorists. I think quite clearly in retrospect, that was not, though we had a 7-year, 6-year reduction in the terrorist violence, is certainly not enough to restore deterrence against Pakistan's extreme actions. So therefore, the question comes back. I mean, I think there's been a problem since the late 80s. How do you restore deterrence against Pakistani terror? Whether it is what kind of actions do you undertake? That's one problem. Second, I think, is also the political diplomatic side. I think we've seen the Modi government actually try and change the terms of engagement with Pakistan. That is, they're not simply going to go back to talks. They're arguing that, look, Kashmir is no longer up for negotiation. You change its constitutional status quo within India and saying, look, there's no dispute anymore. So in some senses, we've tried to, rework the terms on which we talk to Pakistan. So now the question comes that since he's demonstrated the capacity for some unacceptable, brutal violence, what do you do? I mean, I think here I would say what General Sharma was saying, this is going to be, you have to take longer term measures because deterrence has failed again, and it will have to be a series of actions. A third problem, I would say, is really moment the India-Pakistan temperature rises, you'll have the good doctors from the rest of the world jumping in. You already see the UN Secretary General talking about it. Because India and Pakistan are nuclear, any escalation of the conflict will inevitably bring the rest of the world. I think in the past, the
you don't think that there is a window right now with an administration in Washington that thinks somewhat differently, with China distracted by tariffs, unlikely to come to Pakistan's rescue, that there is a real opportunity? This is not Chitti Singh Pura and Bill Clinton. This is J.D. Vance and Pahalgam, right? It's a different world.
You see, we have evidence to go by what Trump did last time in 2019, that after Pulwama attacks, we saw in fact, Trump administration was quite supportive of India. But at the same time, moment you had Abhinandan, bailing out on the other side, the threat of Indian escalation did produce international intervention. See, I think moment it becomes a danger of a nuclear conflict, irrespective of how it is started, everyone is going to come in and say, guys, stop it. So you might get a chance to do the first blow, take the second blow, but then the third blow, moment you begin to, the temperature rises, irrespective of what the relationships are, I think there'll be. So I think that's why whatever military action we do, we need a solid diplomatic strategy to ensure that the key international actors will be on our side, understand what we're trying to do, and put the pressure on Pakistan, not on India, to produce. In the past, if you remember, Barkha, you covered the 2001-2002 crisis. You saw finally Musharraf was forced to make a speech. I mean, not that it really stopped anything. But this time, I think you need a lot more. So therefore, having the major powers on our side is a key thing. And then what we don't know is less about the US than about China. If you see after the constitutional amendment, China went to the Security Council. China is a claimant for parts of Kashmir, and China is a close partner of Pakistan. And we have already a pretty bad situation on the India-China border, where nearly 3,600 kilometers of border, their military is fully deployed. So therefore, I think we have actually a far more complex circumstance this time. The West might be, even if the West is supportive of us, we still need to deal with the China problem. So finally, I would say one more thing, Barkha. It's really in all the fronts that General Sharma talked about, there is also internal political front. At this point, you could say Pakistan is much weaker. It has the most important civilian leaders in jail. There's problem in Balochistan. There's problem in the frontier. There's problem on the Afghan border. But I think this crisis, does it rally support for General Munir, which is already unpopular military-civilian regime there? That is one question. And second, how do we ensure that our own internal front remains stable, united? So I think how you play the domestic politics on each side would also be a big factor.
Right, a number of things to think about there. In the meantime, our team on the ground at Ground Zero in Pahalgam, sometimes the smallest image is the most powerful one, and these are blood-spattered shoes, the remains of the day from the epicenter where this carnage took place. Just shoes. These shoes, these slippers, they tell their own story, and it is really heartbreak upon heartbreak. One of the things that has happened in the Kashmir Valley, and I say this as somebody this has been my beat for 30 years, as long as I've been a journalist, is an unprecedented street protests by Kashmiris. It always used to be said कि आप सड़क पे हर चीज के लिए निकलते हैं, आप terrorism के खिलाफ क्यों नहीं निकलते? Well, this time we have seen that. We have seen anger and anguish among Kashmiris saying that, look, we have been destroyed by this. We have been destroyed by this. I want to play out just one very small clip that captures this anger and the unprecedented protest. Take a look.
आज आपने प्रोटेस्ट कॉल दी है, क्या आज इस प्रोटेस्ट से मैसेज देना चाहते हैं आप? देखिए, आज यहाँ पर पिछले 30 सालों से हालात खराब है. हुर्रियत जो सेपरेटिस्ट है या बाकी लोग हैं जो मिलिटेंट है, जब वो कॉल देते थे तो पूरा कश्मीर बंद होता है. पहली बार कश्मीरी इंसानियत को बचाने के लिए सड़कों पर आए हैं. पिछले 4 दिनों से कश्मीरी सड़कों पर हैं, लेकिन इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि हम अपने रोजगार या टूरिज्म इंडस्ट्री को बचाने के लिए सड़कों पर हैं. अल्लाह कसम, जो एक कश्मीर ऐसा खिता है हिंदुस्तान में इकलौता खिता, अगर यहाँ पर 6 महीनों के लिए भी हिंदुस्तान या पाकिस्तान या कोई भी दुनिया का कोई भी टूरिस्ट नहीं आएगा. अभी बदलती हुई तस्वीर को कैसे देखते हैं? 4 दिन पहले की तस्वीर, आज की तस्वीर को कैसे देखते हैं? पूरा में है, हम यही मैसेज देना चाहते हैं, तमाम जितने भी टूरिस्ट आना चाहते हैं, आप आइए, हम आपके साथ खड़े हैं, अपनी जान कुर्बान कर देंगे, लेकिन आपको कोई आंच नहीं आने देंगे.
अपनी जान कुर्बान कर देंगे, लेकिन आपको आंच नहीं आने देंगे. और मैं ये सिर्फ लाइवलीहुड के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूं. That was the other important thing there. Khalid, I want to bring you in. There are 2 particularly heartbreaking stories that have emerged from Kashmir, and yet in that heartbreak they give you hope. One is the story of a shawl wala. If we can bring that viral image, we've also interviewed him, but we've all seen that image of him running down the mountain with an injured tourist on his back. Could we please have those images there? And in fact, I'll play that clip in just a moment. But the other is also the story of the pony wala who was killed. He was killed because he tried to wrestle with terrorists. Something has shifted here. And you see this. This is his young son kissing him goodbye. As rest of India lit cremation pyres, there was a burial in Kashmir of Adil Hussain, and this is a little child and his family kissing him goodbye. He's the one who wrestled with the terrorists, and then, as I said, there was the shawl wala who came running down the mountains, and we'll show you that clip in just a moment. Khalid, go ahead. Could we unmute Khalid? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Barkha, the outpouring of grief in Kashmir, or the fact that locals who were present at that moment came to protect or save the tourists, is nothing out of the ordinary. We have seen this happening in the past, perhaps not in the situation of a terrorist attack, perhaps in the situation of a boat capsizing and other such incidents, locals coming in, protecting and bringing tourists to safety. That has happened. The outpouring of the grief, for sure, this time around is unprecedented. It's organic. It's not driven by anyone. And I have made hundreds of phone calls to friends of all shades of political opinion. Everyone is shocked and petrified and thinks that this kind of incident brings no good to Kashmir and Kashmiris. What we also need to be at the same time be aware that the kind of outpouring of grief and the shift that we are witnessing in Kashmir may be scuttled, because the larger narrative in the rest of the country is such that it doesn't necessarily give Kashmiri a sense that he is accepted or he is safe or he is protected in rest of the India. There have been incidents regarding students and businessmen and all of that. That I think there has to be a sense that for petty electoral and political gains, some elements in rest of India are creating a scenario which essentially lead to further alienation and perhaps lead us to a point that this moment of organic grief and outpouring and turning against Pakistan may be scuttled. The second is that the references of places like Gaza and all of that, I don't understand what that reference means. We have seen a lot of that in social media. We are
reference means that it's an inflection point. What 7th October was, this is an inflection point, right? Would you grant that?
There is no doubt the Indian state has to respond. There is no doubt in the mind of Kashmiri or any Indian that the Indian state will respond. But are we out there to create another Gaza? I don't think so. I don't think the Indian state is the state of Israel. One, we do not have the global backing that the Israel has. Two, the Indian state, we do have support today from Washington, D.C. to Riyadh to Tehran. And that support is because India is seen a rational, reasonable, well-meaning actor. We have that global goodwill. Do we want to be a global pariah like Israel by raking up issues like Gaza and so on and so forth? What I want to say is that India has done counterterrorism and counterinsurgency for 30 years. But all through this, we've never had allegations of genocide. When you talk Gaza, you're talking about, a mind goes to the allegations of genocide.
But Khalid, with
now there will be a retaliation. It has to be in a manner that is true to the spirit of India and the Indianness.
No, I would like to say with respect that I think that analogy is metaphorical and not literal by anybody who has used it.
Not the best metaphor to have.
Okay, all right, but
we have done better and we can do better.
Okay, that metaphor bothers you, but you do concede that this is an inflection point and Kashmiris do understand, like everybody else in India, that the state will respond. Now, before I come to General Sharma, look, we have had to deal with a lot of, we cannot gloss over the fact that there has been religious targeting. There is testimony after testimony after testimony that the religious identity of the victims was ascertained. They were asked to recite the kalma. There is even the story of the Assam professor who's a Hindu, but he managed to recite it and therefore he managed to actually get away unscathed. But in the midst of this, we've also now had many of these families going back home and talking about a pony wala, a taxi driver, a shawl wala, somebody who led them to safety. From BJP leaders, local BJP leaders have spoken about how their lives were saved to just, ordinary families. And we have to hold on. We have to hold on to those testimonies that as well. I just want to play out
earthquake for 3.4 Western Turkey.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I think somebody played something by mistake. I just want to play out for you as we look at from BJP leaders to women in Kerala, the gratitude for Kashmiris who saved lives. One such testimony, a shawlwala Sajid, who saw a message on his WhatsApp group, and he was not even required to be there, but he went running to save lives. And his really, really heartbreaking testimony asking Indians, the rest of India, to not abandon Kashmir. Take a look.
जी हम घर पे बैठे हुए थे तो हमारे घर में जो मेरी चाची है उसकी डेथ हुआ था तो हम उसी के घर पे बैठे हुए थे और हमारे साथ वहाँ पे बहुत सारे लोग जो ताज़ियत में आए हैं और खासकर जो पोनी स्टैंड का जो प्रेसिडेंट है मिस्टर वहीद वानी साहब उनको जब ये मैसेज आया तो उन्होंने मतलब अपने ग्रुप में भी मैसेज डाला कि बाइसरन में ये इंसिडेंट हुआ है कि उसी के साथ हम गए हैं। तो जब हम पहुंचे लगता है 3:30 बजे के करीब हम पहुंचे। हमने जहाँ पे जो वहाँ पे जख्मी देखा है उनको हमने पानी पिलाया और वहीद साहब और रईस अहमद भट्ट साहब जो वो भी यूनियन का प्रेसिडेंट है, ये घोड़े वाला यूनियन का प्रेसिडेंट है। तो हम सब मिलके वहाँ पे आए हैं। बहुत सारे लोगों को हमने घोड़े पे बिठाया है, जो चल नहीं पाया उनको हमने कंधे पे उठाया और बहुत सारे लोगों को हमने पानी भी पिलवाया है कि हमने वहाँ पे ये इंसानियत के नाते पहले तो इंसानियत है बाद में धर्म है। बहुत सारा नुकसान हुआ है कि पूरे कश्मीर के घरों में मातम छाया हुआ है। हम उनको रिक्वेस्ट करके सके कि हमको अकेला मत छोड़े, कि आप ही के लोगों के से हमारे रोजा रोटी चलते थे, क्योंकि पूरे कश्मीर के घरों में मातम छाया। अभी अगर किसी के घर में भी जाओगे, मतलब यहाँ पे छोटा सा दुकान जो दूध बेचेगा, कुछ भी मतलब छोटे से दुकान पूरे गली या मार्केट में पूरा बंद है, पूरा शट डाउन है। इसमें हम पुरजोर से निंदे करते हैं कि इसमें मतलब ऐसा कभी होना नहीं चाहिए। इंसानियत का मतलब मामला है, इंसानियत, धर्म तो अलग है, पहले तो इंसानियत को देखना चाहिए।
देखा कि एक भाई हाफतनार का वो भी शहीद हो
हाँ, वो भी शहीद हो गया था। तो हम जब वहाँ पे पहुंचे तो हमने मतलब 5-6 लोग उधर देखते, वो रो रहे थे कि हमको हेल्प करो। फिर हमको देखा, हमारे आंखों में आंसू नहीं। हम अब उनको रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि हमको अकेला मत छोड़े, क्योंकि आप जब लोग आते हैं तो हमारे घरों में चिराग जलते हैं। आप हमको कश्मीरी को आप मत छोड़े, अकेला मत छोड़े। आप हमारे भाई, हम हिंदुस्तानी हैं, आपके बिना हमारी जिंदगी अधूरी।
हम अमन को रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं, हमें अकेला मत छोड़िए, धर्म बाद में, इंसानियत पहले, religion later, humanity first. This from Kashmiri Shawlwala, who saw a message in the WhatsApp group and ran to do his bit. General Sharma, let's bring you in. You see, on the one hand, you have a glimmer of hope in these testimonies. On the other hand, you have very, very, very chilling testimonies of religious targeting. You know, you have little children, women talking about how it was ascertained whether they were Hindu or Muslim. And I want to join the dots now to Asim Munir's speech. Was that speech not taken seriously enough, you think? How do you join the dots to that speech?
Two things here, Barka. Before I come to General Munir, I think there is a turn in Jammu and Kashmir that was evident. And I'm not talking about Naya Kashmir, which everybody is talking of. We've been there recently, Lal Chowk and places like that. And, we find a difference. We have been there in Kashmir for the last 40 years, but there is a difference here. I wish to state here that this is an opportunity which Punjabis found in Punjab. When the Punjabi agitation was finishing, when the militants were starting targeting the women and children and the innocent people in Punjab, that the turn took place in Punjab, and KPS Gill and everybody was able to exploit that anger that the public had in Punjab. Now, I think that's an opportunity today that we have in Punjab, in Jammu and Kashmir, where there is a turn here. And I again won't say it is because of tourism alone. The turn has come from the hearts of people, and we've been in and out, and we see the difference here. To add to this is an issue, a news item which is around now, saying that 1,500 OGWs were picked up. Now, 1,500 OGWs in a narrower belt of South Kashmir seems to be slightly excessive, because if there are 1,500 OGWs there, and you've not been taking action on them earlier, and suddenly if you pick them up, and who are there? They are shopkeepers, they are school teachers, and the ham-handedness must not come back. We have not to get the situation back to the 90s and early 2000s. The situation is improving. We have to exploit the situation. We can't go back, and the destruction of houses may be right, but the visuals are not right. The visual give you an impression that there is something being ham-handed. So I think there is a need to be. This is an opportunity which must be taken as an opportunity. First part. Second part, the question you asked me about General Munir. Now, what his statements actually, he's had hands behind the back. We all who study Pakistan Army know that there is a distaste in rank and file against the general. There are many instances. There are so many journals, so senior officers being sacked. What's happening in rank and file, we follow and we write also on this one. So there is and he has a problem in Balochistan, a serious problem, which and his own following is questionable. So his statement was actually to the diaspora that he spoke to, was aimed at getting the diaspora and the public in his support which was waning. I'm not saying just follow Adil Raza, what he writes, or Wajahat, or what he speaks. There are others who are totally anti, but then there is a internal feeling. His statement was actually, if I say, was trying to bhadkao, and he was trying to draw cleavages between Hindus and Muslims. Not required. This statement was not required in that audience, but he deliberately made that statement in addition to the statement of Kashmir, which of course, and it is the identity issue of Pakistan. The only way he can keep the country together and support the army is to continue saying JNK, 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 anti-Indianism. We have to learn that he was trying to propel people to start on this one. I'll end by saying that what's happening in Kashmir is right. But what is there, that there is a hinterland of India, which has got also cleavages which come up off and on. And, you know, some statements being made about Kashmiri students studying in Dehradun and many other places. I think the state governments ought to get cautious also. We don't want to start an uprising in the country which is not required. This was a sporadic act to heighten tensions when that sporadic act may have failed in the larger perspective. We must not try, we must not allow things to go out of hand in the hinterland also.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, General Sharma, that this ham-handedness, you cannot go back to a Kashmir you have left behind. I think that is a very important point. And I think Khalid in his own way was saying, in a way, the same thing, that look, Kashmir is standing shoulder to shoulder with the rest of India, and let's hold on to that. Let me, Khalid, you want to come in briefly? I want to go to Ambassador Sinha. Khalid? I can't hear Khalid. I'm so sorry, Khalid. I can't hear you. I don't know what the issue is. I can't hear Khalid. Now I can.
Add to that, a lot of people I've spoken to, a lot of friends that I've spoken to, is that the general sentiment in Kashmir is that, oh, you will get punished for another 10 years. You know, and that's a wrong sentiment that people should be having. And that's exactly the kind of sentiment that the government should be working actively to counter that, you know, the government there or the security establishment not there to punish the people, but rather to make their lives easy. Immediately after this attack, a lot of worry is that ab hamari pitai hogi. So, and I agree with the General Saab on that sentiment should be countered in a way, because at the end of the day, we're also victims of this. Directly or indirectly, we are the victims of this in many ways.
Yeah, I don't know how people will see that, because there is suffering, but then there is also this sense, Khalid, that in the end, it will be the people of the valley who will recognize, as I think Sajjad Lone said, whose own father was assassinated by ISIL-backed terrorists, that you know, these terrorists are out to destroy us, and by us he meant the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Let me bring in Ambassador Sinha now at this point. Ambassador Sinha, you said, let's get rid of the Indus Water Treaty. Now, you've heard comments on, you know, some of the challenges that the world will get involved. Now, if the world is going to keep getting involved, then that's the kind of nuclear blackmail that the Uri surgical strikes in Balakot tried to challenge. Are we still stuck at that point? Professor Rajamohan seems to suggest that you may be allowed one blow, two blows, and then somebody will step in. So, you know, go ahead, sir.
No, you're quite right. I mean, and Rajamohan is quite right in saying that if a strike takes place and it remains a one-off strike, or perhaps one from our side, one from their side, and the matter ends there, that kind of gives vent to the anger that the people in India have right now. If it stops there, then of course that is possible, but I'm afraid it may not stop there. And if it doesn't, then immediately the other countries will step in. And that's the pattern that's been there in the past also. But you're absolutely correct, and Khalid is absolutely correct, as is General Sharma, that we need to protect the change that has taken place in Kashmir Valley. That is quite evident in the reaction over there. And the cleavages that Pakistan wishes to create and exploit in India, those we should not allow at any point.
Yeah.
We should take steps which where we think we made mistakes in the past. And I think the Indus Waters Treaty was a mistake, where we gave away 70% of the water, including sacrificing the interests of the state of Jammu and Kashmir.
I was just going to say that I'm old enough to remember that the J&K Assembly has passed unanimous resolutions asking for the scrapping of this treaty. And at that time, they were just ignored, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because we thought that we got 3 rivers and Pakistan got 3 rivers, but those 3 rivers had 70% of the water, and they were the rivers that are all there in Jammu and Kashmir. One is in Ladakh, one is in Kashmir Valley, and one is in Jammu. And all the waters of these rivers were handed over to Pakistan. These are our waters, and there is no international law which obligates an upper riparian to hand over its water to the lower riparian. There is no treaty like this anywhere in the world, I can assure you. Now, you talk about we cannot obviously change things overnight. to divert any kind of water, to utilize any kind of water, it takes time. After the Indus Waters Treaty, we were able to make the Bhakra Dam, other dams in Himachal Pradesh, and the whole state benefited. Now, that is exactly the kind of thing that we need to do with the rivers in Jammu and Kashmir, and utilize the water for the benefit of the people there and for the rest of India.
Now we are, let me bring in Professor Raja Mohan on that. In the meantime, the images you're seeing on your screen are absolutely devastating. That's the father of Naval Officer Lieutenant Vinay Narwal breaking down as he performs the last rites for his son. His son had been married less than 2 weeks ago. We'll play those images in just a moment. We'll cut across to those images. Professor Raja Mohan, there is tragedy upon tragedy. There is a public opinion. No government can ignore that. I understand, therefore, what General Sharma said, that sometimes you act from irrationality, because the moment you start reasoning through all the scenarios, many obstacles do emerge. But my question to you is this. Do you agree with Ambassador Sinha that the one thing that is permanent is to get rid of the Indus Water Treaty? And if so, what are the mechanics of doing so? I can't hear Raja Mohan. Could we unmute him, please? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, it is. Yeah, I mean, as Ambassador Sinha was saying, look, it'll take a while to actually, create the capabilities to make the decision on making better use of the waters an effective one. So this not have an effect immediately, but it will take a while. But as you can also see, just as the Pakistanis say Kashmir is the jugular vein, the Indus too. I mean, in effect, as the Pakistan said yesterday, it's an act of war. So in a way, it kind of captures that, look, India can do things which will hurt them over the longer term, and that in turn produces a reaction from them. So therefore, I think this is really, by putting it in the center of the argument today, I think India is saying, look, this is not the same old situation. It's no longer possible for India to do what it has done for the last 75 years. So therefore, the conditions have changed. Now, I think the challenge for us is really, we've raised the stakes, and the way Prime Minister has talked in the last couple of days, the kind of intensity of the retribution that you're promising, all these have raised the level at which we need to react. And to while General Sharma talked about cyber attacks or of covert actions, people want to see visible actions, right? Whether it's done in the first 10 hours or not, a sense that that Pakistan is being punished, and that needs to be done. The other aspect is, many of the sanctions that we've imposed actually, do they isolate the Pakistan army? Actually, do they help them to rally around the people? Because I think one of the problems with sanctions like these, whether America does it or somebody else does it, it's really difficult to say, look, who is it intended against? And I think that's a general problem. But in the immediate term, I mean, I would say we've raised the stakes, but the question of managing the consequence of that raised stakes is what will unfold in the next few days.
Yeah, I do want to talk about these raised stakes, and we will start taking last comments. But as I said, there's devastation upon devastation, tragedy upon tragedy. One of the most heartbreaking, every person killed is heartbreaking, but a newly married naval officer, married less than 2 weeks ago, his wife saying Jai Hind at her, standing by his coffin, I think that broke India's heart. We now have Lieutenant Vinay Narwal's father breaking down as he performs the last rites. I want to give you a sense of those images, if we can please play them. So very difficult to watch these images. Very, very difficult. Let me just bring in General Sharma. We do have other testimonies also coming in. Go ahead, General Sharma. The raised stakes. The raised stakes that Raja Mohan spoke about.
So the point is that if people say it'll take 10 years to do something credible about the IWT, that 10 years is too long drawn a period. Now, can we do something? Issues there, of course, we can handle many of these issues. but maybe there are some canals which are now being required desilting. There requires some kind of pondage which can be utilized even now, where some waters can be diverted. Minor, minuscule. It is a message being conveyed. Let's have the Kishan Ganga going. There's a canal that connects Chenab to Jammu. Maybe we can have that canal desilted and water flowing across there. Maybe, start thinking in a manner that there is a beginning made. If we say we wait for big dams to come up or big issues, then after 5 years, something that held in abeyance or suspended animation will die away and it will be back into normal. So where and in which time frame we can do the effect across there, because IW2, as the ambassador says, fantastic idea which has been thrown out for last 40-50 years, which is now brought into fore. Let's do something about it and make a difference. And maybe we can desilt some dams where water pondage is not there. Salal Dam is got silted now. There are no water pondage left. We can work on something and get some answers there on IWT. It's a very major step taken. Now, in addition to that, in case we have to take action, see, where is the Dukti Rug of Pakistan today? His Dukti Rug is not J&K. His Dukti Rug is not even India. His Dukti Rug lies on his west. The Baluchistan, it lies in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, TTP, in BLA. Even Baltistan, Balti people, which are agitating in against thing. So when all cards are on the table, the cards are on the table. We just say, okay, fine. You want to, play this game, then we have the right to play the same game as you have been playing. You say you have been playing because the Americans told you in 80s to play it. So we play the game. And as we know, we have relationships now better with Taliban than the Pakistan can boast of. So, things are changing, and India has been recognized today because of this change which has come up in 7, 8, 10 years. Yeah. That recognition will make a difference. Let's put the cards on the table. Okay, you want to play games? Okay, we will play games. Say so.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, that India now can step up and say, here we are lending our support to the Baluchistan movement. Reactions to that in just a moment. As I said, testimonies continue to pour in. There has been religious targeting, and while it is important to reinforce that local Kashmiri Muslims, and I mentioned the religion because victims have been targeted for their religion, did try in many instances to save the lives of their visitors. Testimony after testimony is talking about this targeting. There are at least 4 new brides who have been widowed. 4 new brides. Honeymoons have turned into funerals, into horror stories. And I want to bring you now the testimony of one such newly married bride who has lost her husband, Shubham Dwivedi. This is Shubham Dwivedi's wife speaking. Take a look.
एक बंदा पीछे से आया और उसने गोली साइड में रख के उससे पूछा, हिंदू है कि मुसलमान? मुसलमान है तो पहले कलमा पढ़ के दिखा। जैसे हमें पता ही नहीं, हम पीछे पलट के देखे हो क्या रहा है, हम उसकी तरफ स्माइल करके पूछे, भैया क्या हुआ? कह रहे हिंदू है मुसलमान। मैंने कहा हिंदू बाहर गए।
उनसे बोला कि अगर आप कलमा पढ़ दो तो हम आपको गोली नहीं मारेंगे। उसके बाद उन्होंने वहां पर उनको गोली मार दी और उनकी वाइफ से कहा कि आप जाकर के अपनी सरकार को बताना कि हमने आपके साथ क्या किया है।
That is Shubham Dwivedi's brother and his wife. And the particularly devastating images for me are the last video that they shared playing cards, just playing a game of cards. I mean, when you look at that, you look at Manjunath or Nishikara, Shubham playing cards. I mean, it is also utterly heartbreaking. Khalid, let me bring you in as we take last comments. Khalid Shah, I mean, we are in for protracted grim times. We are, whether we call it war or not, we are a nation at war. I think we are a nation at war. We have to just acknowledge that. Go ahead before I come to Ambassador Sinha and Professor Raja Mohan for concluding comments.
2 things, Barka. While we're talking about options and retaliatory measures, I think one option that India should really think about is causing economic pain to the Pakistan army generals. Can we devise mechanisms that we make their international financial transactions difficult? That's one. The other is that making a very strong legal case with evidence linking the attack to the perpetrators and the planners in the Pakistan army. It's very important because I'm in a global capital in Istanbul here. I talk to friends and all of that. They ask, okay, you say Pakistan, but what evidence do you have? How do you say it? And that narrative, that message has to go across out very clearly and has to be well established, a strong legal case in the international fora. The third one, which I think no one talked about, which I will talk about because I come from Kashmir and I see it, is glaring lapses in the internal security mechanism. There are glaring lapses. There is a need for an overhaul in Jammu and Kashmir police. The priorities and the objectives and what we know as Jammu and Kashmir police has changed, and it's changing significantly, and we must have a look at that as well. I'm worried, God forbid, there may be another one attack, God forbid, in Srinagar or Jammu. This is what has been running on my mind for the last 24 hours. And we need to be mindful that there may be things to be done internally. And I believe that there are.
Yeah, I'm glad you flagged that, because even Kiran Rijiju comes out of the all-party meeting and he acknowledges that there was a discussion of, he used the word chook, lapses that took place at Pahalgam. And I think, Khalid, you've been quite correct to flag how alert we must be about internal security. Before I get very quick last words from Ambassador Sinha and Professor Raja Mohan and General Sharma, please feel free to jump in. Our team has been at Pahalgam, at the site where this happened. I'll just give you a sense of what it looks like today. Take a look.
ये वो रास्ता है जहां से नीचे जब भगदौड़ मच गई, उसके बाद यहां से नीचे जब ये जा रहे थे, रेस्क्यू किया जा रहा था, इनको बहुत सारे आप देख सकते हैं, इनके जो जहां पे किसी का जूता यहाँ पे पड़ा हुआ है, किसी की क्या चीज पड़ी हुई है रास्ते में, बिल्कुल यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं। यहाँ पे ये दिखाऊंगा मैं आपको, ये कैमरामैन को रिक्वेस्ट कर थोड़ा इसको क्लोजअप इसका ले, ये दिखाएं, ये देखें आप, जहां पे जिसकी टांग यहाँ पे फंसी वहीं पे जूते रह गए, और ये पूरा जो रास्ता है ये आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से कीचड़ से भरा हुआ है। और इसके साथ साथ पिछले 3 दिन से लगातार जितनी भी सेंट्रल एजेंसीज हैं वो यहाँ पे मौके वारदात पे आ रही हैं। यहाँ पे सीआरपीएफ, आर्मी और जेके पुलिस वो भी लगातार यहाँ पे मॉनिटरिंग कर रही है और जाए वारदात पे बार बार पहुंच रहे हैं और इन्वेस्टिगेट कर रहे हैं, और कोशिश की जा रही है जो ये टेररिस्ट थे इनको किसी तरीके से जो है पकड़ा जाए, और इस पे पूरी जो सेंट्रल एजेंसीज हैं अभी काम कर रही हैं। आपको हम बाइसरन पहलगाम से मोजो स्टोरी के लिए सईद नजाकत।
Those bloodstained sandals really do speak for themselves. You know, you can visualize people trying to run down those rugged slopes. Let's get quick last words. General Sharma, I know you have to leave. We'll take 30 seconds from all of you. Professor Raja Mohan, I'll start with you. Yeah.
Challenge for us is how do we isolate the Pakistan army, that whatever we do, the punishment must be directed at Pakistan army, and isolating it. And then, as we discussed earlier, General Munir himself is not too popular in the army. Therefore, I think the purpose of use of force must be to weaken the Pakistan army and prevent him from consolidating internally, and prevent him from creating conditions where disrupting India's domestic unity. So I would say those are the key tasks that we must do as we prepare to use force.
Ambassador Sinha, there is a bind here. Munir may want a war. Munir may want a war because his only relevance at home is conflict with India. Not that we have to be concerned with that. As Professor Raja Mohan says, our aim has to be, and Khalid also make the point, hit the Pakistani generals where it hurts. But what if military action helps, it gives them, you know, a new life? I'm just thinking aloud.
Yeah, you're quite right. And military action has its pros and cons. How do we hurt the Pakistani army? Well, it's very difficult. America has been trying to hurt the rulers of certain countries on which it puts sanctions, and the rulers become stronger. But I think what we need to do, I mean, apart from the fact that we need to strengthen our domestic security, which is very important, I think we should use this event, this incident, and this anger to change some of our policies that we have been treating as kind of holy cows in our foreign policy. One is that Indus Waters Treaty cannot be abrogated because we are obliged under international law to do so. Second, the accession of Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we don't question those. Pakistan questions the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to India, but we have never questioned these. Now, why don't we start questioning these? This is an opportunity for us to raise these points and tell Pakistan that, as I said, as General Sharma said, you want to play this game, we can play this game too, and we will start playing this game. And that will at least get our policy on the right track with Pakistan.
Yeah, I have to close, General Sharma. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead, sir. General Sharma. Sir, I can't hear you.
So many of the instances, it's been stated that the armed force, security forces general in the valley floor wanted to show a lower visibility. You should not look like a military state when there are so many lakhs of tourists coming across there. And that desire to show lower visibility and lower uniform around all the places, we may be getting lax into providing security where security is due. So, there is a balance has to be met. We just can't say things are all right, but last year there were 61 instances of terrorist-initiated incidents in the valley, and 61 instances makes about 5 per month, which is substantial if you say in a state like that. We just can't say that, you reduce the visibility and uniform across around the Dal Lake and around picnic spots and etc., providing a void for the terrorists to take action. So, it has to be a balance to be met for internal security. And second point I wish to say is that if people have been writing and, saying just throw this ceasefire down the drain. Let's open fire on the ceasefire. Now, major part of the ceasefire, the line of control, is in Hindu belt, which starts from Rajouri, Nashera, Aknur, and, Samba, Katua, Hiranagar. The first people to be affected are the villages which are at the line of control itself, because they are all tilling the ground. There's most fertile land there. So, when we start doing a thing of saying, just open the fire and, devastate, use artillery, there will be a corresponding effect on our villages. And in our lifetimes, we have seen these people being hit and, villages being hit and our own people having collateral. So we'll have to be watchful on this one. And my last point here, and I'll end here, is saying that let's find a target which is Dukti Rag. Let's not talk about terrorist camps, which are balakots or launch pads are 2 men and a dog. They have no meaning at all. We have to say, okay, people say Murid Ke. Okay, Murid Ke first night would have been very good. Second night is gone. Third night is even more difficult. But Murid Ke, Bahawalpur, Raiwind, which are the headquarters of all these militant organizations, start thinking in a big manner as to where we want to convey a message across this.
Yeah, many questions, no easy options, no easy answers. Everything India does will have consequences. That is the nature of conflict. That is the nature of war. And as I said, whatever word you give it, we are a nation that has been against whom there has been an act of war. And therefore, we are a nation in a state of war trying to determine what comes next, not, as General Sharma said, to outguess or out-speculate those who have to take these decisions, but to be mindful that we should not turn into armchair warriors pretending to know more than we do. That is also something that I would urge, not the people on our panel who are all veterans, who are all experts, but social media driving this demand. Governments do come under pressure. We have to allow breathing space for very well-considered, long-lasting, sustainable options to be taken. Thank you very much, Professor Raja Mohan, Ambassador Sinha, Khalid Shah, General Sharma, and to our audience, keep watching our continued coverage on the Pahalgam terror attack on Mojo Story. Thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.